There's a hidden lender in Australia's housing market bigger than most banks. It's not a company. It's parents. If your parents can't help you buy a house in Australia today, statistically, you probably never will. Here's why. Across Australia's major cities, the average home now costs well over $1 million, far beyond what a single income can support. A young graduate earning the average salary would need to save every spare dollar for over a decade just for a deposit. So more young Australians are stuck in share houses, cramped rentals, or back at home, simply waiting for the numbers to make sense. Wages haven't kept pace. Home prices have grown many times faster than income for the past 2 decades straight. At property auctions, bidding wars are now common, pushing prices even higher than asking, further out of reach for first-time buyers. For an entire generation, homeownership has quietly shifted from a milestone you earn to one you're simply born into, or not. There's an unofficial lender fueling Australia's property market, informally known as the Bank of Mom and Dad. It's not a real bank. It's the growing trend of parents gifting or loaning their children money for a house deposit. By some estimates, this informal bank now ranks among the largest sources of home buying finance in the entire country. For families with property or savings to pass down, this makes homeownership dramatically easier for the next generation. A child whose parents own their home outright often gets a head start worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, essentially for free. A child whose parents are still renting themselves gets none of that support, and often faces the exact same struggle their parents did. This isn't about individual effort or discipline. It's about which family you happen to be born into. Homeownership in Australia is quietly becoming inherited wealth, passed down, rather than something everyone can achieve equally. This creates 2 very different Australias. One where young people are handed a deposit, one where they're handed nothing. Families without property or savings to pass down are effectively locked out, regardless of how hard their children work or save. This hits single-parent families and lower-income households the hardest, widening a wealth gap that already existed before housing got this expensive. Some young Australians are working 2 jobs just to save a deposit, while others receive one instantly from family. Financial advisors increasingly tell clients that family assistance is no longer a bonus. It's becoming a requirement to enter the market at all. This is also reshaping retirement. Many parents are dipping into their own savings or superannuation just to help their kids buy in. Some families take on debt themselves to help their children, quietly passing financial stress down instead of wealth. As this trend grows, Australia risks becoming a country where your postcode at birth predicts your postcode as an adult. Some couples are delaying marriage or children, waiting years longer than previous generations just to reach basic financial stability. Others move further and further from city centers, chasing affordability at the cost of time, community, and career opportunities. Conversations about money and inheritance are becoming more common and more tense inside Australian families than ever before. Some siblings receive vastly different levels of help based on timing or need, quietly straining family relationships for years. For renters without family backing, there's a growing sense that the traditional path to home ownership simply no longer applies to them. Even well-paid professionals with stable careers are finding that income alone isn't enough anymore. Family wealth is the missing piece. This growing inequality has pushed housing fairness to the center of public debate, not just housing supply or interest rates. Economists now openly warn that Australia is at risk of becoming a country divided by inherited wealth rather than personal effort. Decades of rising property values turned home ownership itself into the most reliable path to family wealth in Australia. Tax policies that reward property investment have made owning multiple homes attractive, concentrating wealth in fewer hands over time. Meanwhile, housing supply hasn't kept pace with population growth, keeping prices high enough that only assisted buyers can easily compete. In competitive markets, cash-assisted buyers can simply outbid those relying solely on their own savings and income. This slowly pushes unassisted buyers out of desirable areas entirely, reinforcing exactly the divide this creates. What started as a housing affordability problem has quietly evolved into a much deeper wealth inequality problem. Solution 1. Expand shared equity schemes, where government support replaces family support for those without wealthy parents. Solution 2. Strengthen first home buyer grants specifically targeted at applicants without family financial assistance available. Solution 3. Increase affordable and social housing supply, reducing reliance on family wealth to access stable housing at all. Solution 4. Reform property tax incentives that currently reward multiple property ownership over first-time, unassisted buyers. Solution 5. Support community land trusts, keeping homes permanently affordable regardless of a buyer's family background. Solution 6. Expand rent-to-own style programs, letting renters build ownership equity gradually without needing a large upfront deposit. Solution 7. Improve financial education and transparent lending options, helping unassisted buyers plan realistically for the market. Solution 8. Some economists argue reforming inheritance and gifting rules could help level the playing field over time. Ultimately, no one chooses the family they're born into, but right now, that choice is deciding who gets to own a home in Australia. Fixing this means looking beyond just supply and interest rates toward a system that doesn't quietly reward you for being born lucky. If you want to see how other countries are tackling their own housing crisis, check out our full housing crisis series on this channel. If you found this useful, subscribe so you never miss the next country we break down in this series.